That's true. Naked Palpatine.
Oh, you pick that one. Fresh out of the clone tank, nude Palpatine is my
Well, that's the first thing I think of when you say Dark Empire Palpatine. Hello everybody and welcome back to the Star Wars Expanded Universe, now either by Disney or from Lucasfilm, whichever way you slice it, Legends. So, today we finish off the Shadow Academy arc of the Young Jedi Knights adventures. Then we'll take a break from Young Jedi Knights to read the 5 books of Junior Jedi Knights, which focuses on Anakin Solo, and then we shall return to Young Jedi Knights with the next arc in their adventure. Starting with Book 4, which is probably my favorite book of this first arc, called Lightsabers. With the growing threat of the Shadow Academy becoming a thing, Luke decides it is finally time for our heroes to finally be able to make their own lightsabers. And this book is primarily, it's an ensemble cast, but the primary focus especially of this book is Tino Ka. Now, as Tino Ka is my favorite female character in all of Star Wars, not to mention one of my favorite female characters in all of fiction, yes, I love this book. And I mean that. Like, I love her. Like, she's great. And this book really shows me why. You know, rereading it, remembering why. I don't want to get too much into spoilers, but it is kind of the most essential thing for her character here. She's a bit restless, a bit cocky. Everybody's supposed to make their lightsabers. Hers is a bit faulty. It does a little bit of a little thingy. But she's like, it's fine. It'll be fine. She fights Jason for a practice session. And then the lightsaber gives out on her. And in that process, she gets an arm taken away. Now, because she is who she is, by the end of the story, you know, she decides she's not going to get an artificial arm like Anakin Skywalker or Luke Skywalker. She's going to keep the stump and be amazing despite it. Some other things happen, but that's about the gist. There's some of these Bartok assassins, because we get to explore Hapes, because she goes back to be with her parents, but her parents are mysteriously not there, because her grandmother is trying to kind of use this situation as a means to get her to focus on the politics of the Hapes society instead of being a Jedi. Meanwhile, Bartok assassins show up, which are basically bugs with a hive mind that try to assassinate you, which is good, because if you want to have a children's book where you cut off severed limbs and murder things brutally, you use bugs, because nobody cares if bugs get hurt. Only if, you know, humans get hurt, so it's acceptable for kids. I believe we saw these guys in the Episode 1 Adventures. I think this was written first, but in the Episode 1 Adventure books, which are young adult books, we get to see a mission that Sidious sends Maul on, and I reviewed this way back when, during the prequel era, like before Episode 1. And in that story, there are a bunch of Bartok assassins, and you get to see Darth Maul throw down. Because, again, these are meant for kids, but it was okay for Darth Maul to slaughter a bunch of bugs. And parents, I guess, don't get too worked up about that, as opposed to if those were a bunch of humans. So, those are like some of the other... I don't know if they really pop up that much elsewhere, but those are about the 2 places here and in that. So, but it was cool to see them. Also, much character development, and again, another reason why I'm so pissed at Danny Kui being a thing in New Jedi Order, because the slow progression throughout this entire series of seeing the chemistry and the connection that Tino Ka and Jason Solo have is immaculate, and it's so well built up, and it makes so much sense that they eventually would get together. So the fact that that's kind of dropped in New Jedi Order is really frustrating. The main reason it happened is because, well, R.A. Salvatore didn't read Young Jedi Knights when he was doing his book. I know, say what you will about Denning, but he most definitely did when he wrote Star by Star. You could tell. Um, but yeah, it was a really good book, though. It's my favorite so far of this arc. I don't know if there's any books that surpass it for me, but this is really good. Moving forward, we have um, Book 5, Darkest Night. No, I'm just kidding. But this one involves Loi's sister, which would be Chewbacca's niece. And every Wookiee, when they reach, maturity, are supposed to go on this, like, dangerous quest to, like, show their manhood. Or not manhood, but that they are becoming an adult. Um, and that's where they have to go to the lower levels of Kashyyyk. The only times we got to see the lower levels of Kashyyyk really were in the KOTOR video game, where you get to see actually the bottom of it. But that's where the most like dangerous animals and predators are. So that's where you have to go, and you have to bring back something to show like your skill or whatever. So originally the reason they go there is because of that. Loi wants to support her. But there's a lot of other things going on with his sister that you got to read about to find out. But the other thing is that Brackus, over at the Shadow Academy, tells Zek that he needs to gather, things from Kashyyyk to, help the cause. Um, and it labels him his darkest knight, his darkest Jedi Knight, which is funny. And he has a suit similar to, like Darth Vader and stuff. Or if you want a even older comparison, Ulic Quadroma. Um, but yeah, so he's going in to do that. Now it is funny, especially if you're counting everything post New Jedi Order. Um, it's much like in the KOTOR game where Malik goes and destroys a planet, but he uses like his entire fleet to shoot at the planet because there's no Death Star yet, right? So it's like it's the same sort of concept, but it's much more complicated because it's in the past. Instead of just using one battle station. And then I just think it's funny because Zach comes in, and comes into the planet and attacks the planet, and then, does all that. Whereas down the line, someone else will just burn the forest planet. Doesn't even need to invade the planet, just burn it. Which, is actually pretty smart. If you're gonna do that to either the Endor moon or um, Kashyyyk, because that's like realistically the best way to win against you just burn the planet because most of the planet is wood, so it makes sense. Um, but yeah, so of course this is where everyone, because before this, in the Lost Ones, our heroes realize that Zek, is now a spokesperson for the Shadow Academy, but he did not harm his friends or anything. Here is the first time he actually goes in and fights them, and they have to stop him. But that's pretty much it. He does not kill his friends because Zek, despite what he says, they're still good in him, and his friends get away. And Quarrel, the TIE fighter pilot that we met back in the first book, is, furthering and furthering, getting more disillusioned with this new empire, this second Imperium. Then we get to book 6, which is Jedi Under Siege. And this is basically like the Hobbit movie Battle for Five Armies. It's just one gigantic final battle. You know, we got Jason doing stuff, we got Loie doing stuff. We even got Raynar, who's been, kind of like that pompous bully that I didn't really talk about him in my previous review, but in this series, at least these first 6 books, he's just mostly this arrogant, kind of rich boy. He's always going to wear nice clothes, kind of like Lando, but not as smooth at all. He's not smooth at all. He's like Lando, but rude and not cool and privileged. But at the same time, when it comes down to the moment where he has to defend his friends, because usually when you're in it's something that Joker said in The Dark Knight, which is, there is some truth to that, in your last moments or in these really high stress, high dangerous moments, you really get to see a person for who they truly are, right? Under pressure. And Raynar, while he tends to be a bully, you know, and he gets much character development throughout I think the rest of the Young Jedi Knights, and then he gets fricked moving forward, but he's actually pretty cool. He's one of the most redeeming parts about Fate of the Jedi, considering I don't like Fate of the Jedi that much, or I'm like 50-50 with it. But he stands his ground. He's scared, but he stands his ground. He's not much of a threat to the dark Jedi that are showing up, but he tries, and I think that speaks volumes to his character. He could run away, but he doesn't. I mean, Zach can tell he's scared by like reading him. He's scared out of his mind, but he doesn't back down either, which gives me major respect to Raynar, despite how much of a little titty he's been for most of the series. But there is room for improvement, and boy, does he have it. And then he gets stuff done to him, which is far worse than this little kid deserved. But we'll get to that down the line. Um, we have Jason doing stuff. Quarrel again just absolutely just becomes disillusioned with the Empire, or with this Empire. And this, one stormtrooper that's supposed to obey his commands just doesn't. He's like, "You're an old man, you don't know anything, leave me alone." And Quarrel shoots him down. And then he goes to just live in the forest again, like he's been doing, and to live out the rest of his days till he dies there. Temeth Kai goes up against a child, like a 12-year-old, or however old they're supposed to be in this series, of Tino Ka with her one arm, and Tino Ka defeats her. Again, Tino Ka is awesome. Dothmiri versus Dothmiri. One Dothmiri that's still a child and doesn't have both of her arms, and she still defeats Temeth Kai, which is pretty great. And then, of course, Brackus. We had YJK, if you're counting that, where we learned that even though we didn't see him during the events of Jedi Academy, Brackus was there the whole time. Then, New Rebellion. And then this series. So Brackus has been around for a bit, but here he finally meets his demise. Luke does not kill him. He tries to bring him back to light. Brackus refuses. He runs away and self-destructs when he learns the truth about the Shadow Academy and about the Second Imperium of the Empire. And I'll talk about that in spoilers, but rest assured, if you think there's a contradiction with Palpatine, you're wrong. But yeah, it was a great finale. I really enjoyed it. I don't know if this is my favorite arc of these Young Jedi Knights books. I think it actually gets better as we keep going forward. I think the Diversity Alliance is pretty great, but we'll see about that on the reread time. But overall, pretty fantastic. Now, after the harrowing adventures that our main children characters have gone through, we're going to let them take a little break and focus on a character who doesn't have too many stories in the expanded universe for reasons we shall get to in the future, but is an absolutely wonderful character, and introduces another amazing female character named Tahiri, and we'll get to her in the next video. So thank you all so much for watching. Zach also returns to the light side, which is good because he's going to be with us moving forward, so that'll be fun to see. Anyway, guys, thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, sharing episode a ton. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you when we talk about Junior Jedi Knights. Until then, guys, may the Force be with you.